Hello, everyone, and welcome back once again to episode 3 of the PUBG weekly podcast, where we talk about everything that you could possibly need to know about what's going on in the world of competitive PUBG. I am Poorsaurus. Joining me, as always, will be Crimson and Froz. We are going to talk about a lot of stuff going on this week. We're going to be hitting into the PUBG radar rankings that just recently got released. We're going to be talking about GLL Wingman, which is in full swing. We're going to be bringing you an interview with Alliance T-Bone and the great Mustache Dave. Also, we're going to be joined by the incomparable, immeasurable Toffees to talk about NPL details, which have been finally released. But first and foremost, we're going to be bringing you Coach Dids from Dignitas. It's going to be bringing us an episode of Knowledge is Chicken right now.
Welcome to the first episode of Knowledge is Chicken. The goal of this series is simple. I want to share knowledge that I have as a PUBG coach in order to help you get more chicken dinners. Most of what I share will be focused on competitive PUBG. However, in some cases, you can use the same knowledge in your public matches to give you an edge over your opponents. This first episode will be short and sweet, focusing on vehicle spawns in PUBG's esports mode. For those of you who don't know, PUBG has a custom mode called esports mode, and in this mode there are specific hard spawn vehicles on both Erangel and Miramar, with 3-seaters turned off on Erangel. This is the map of Erangel. All the white dots indicate possible RNG vehicle spawns, while the red and yellow squares show the esports mode vehicle hard spawns. These vehicles will always spawn in esports mode, and as you can see, they mostly spawn in major loot locations or cities. On Erangel, the esports mode vehicles are black Dacias with flame decals. Kinda looks like a Hot Wheels car. This is the map of Miramar. The same goes for this map, where the white dots again indicate possible RNG vehicle spawns, while the red and yellow squares show the esports mode vehicle hard spawns. Just like on Erangel, they will always spawn when using esports mode, and are found in major loot locations or cities. On Miramar, the esports mode vehicles are blue Murados with white racing stripes. Knowing the vehicle loot spawns on each map is important, as it can help your decision making when dropping, especially when your team's loot location is far from the plane path. If you're good enough at parachuting, you might even be able to snag yourself a hard spawn from another team's drop location. It can be quite risky though if you get beat or they land and find a weapon, so tread carefully. That's all I have for you in this first episode of Knowledge is Chicken. I'll be back with another one soon, but until then, good luck and have fun in the battlegrounds.
Hello everybody, it is I, Poorsaurus, and joining me for this fantastic segment that we're very excited to talk about finally is Toffees. Toffees, we have NPL information. Information.
We have NPL information for the first time, some format stuff. And in fact, I think for the first time, we have a tidbit more information than PEL has. So we can feel a little holier than thou for the first time in a while.
We know that there's going to be the National Pro League. We know that there's going to be the National Pro League contenders. We know that the deadline for signing up for open qualifiers is December 7th. And then I believe it's December 11th through 16th. It's going to be the online qualifier hosted by Battlefy. So the top 24 teams coming through that will then go on to the preseason, what they're calling the preseason, which is technically the closed qualifier, where they have the 24 teams from the online, open online, 8 invited teams, 32 teams altogether, 2 lobbies. Not real sure what they're doing as far as like mixing those lobbies up. Either way, top 16 teams from the closed qualifier, the preseason qualifier, go on to the National Pro League. The bottom 16 go on to contenders. So basically, if you qualify for this preseason, you are pretty much set to be in either National Pro League or contenders for the foreseeable future.
I think
so
that
32 teams.
Well, that's a key, is that it's 32 teams, and a lot of players are complaining or frustrated or scared of this 6-team relegation at the end of every split. But there is a relevant point to, we don't know how often opens are going to be. So yes, you might get knocked back to contenders periodically, but it sounds like it's only going to be a once a year option that you are then removed from the 32. So I think that does give a little bit of leniency for sponsors, because even if you get knocked back, fans can sort of still see you embedded in contenders and cheer for you to come back up. Like I used to watch a lot of soccer, or as you know, Crimson and the rest of the guys who are probably going to show up after us would call it football. But one of the things I liked about their system in the Premier League was the relegation, right? The idea that at the end of every season, I don't know if it's 2 or 3 teams get knocked back to AAA, 3 teams get promoted to the Premier, and you got to sort of see, is my team a top team because they had to earn their way back in less than one season. The problem, and you could tell me about this, Poro, is that when that happens, money disappears and some of your best players then become trading fodder, right? Because if you're a top player who's kind of on a cusp team and you get a chance to go up and boost another group, do we see a shuffle every single split? Like that's a question.
It's a valid question to ask. We don't know. We have heard about that there are going to be roster locks, but as far as roster locks go, are the rosters in Contenders? Do they have the same roster locking rules as the Pro League? Still, I mean, we did get information. We got information. Right. It's awesome. It's fantastic. Unfortunately, it also kind of opened up that pipeline for just a ton more questions. We know that NPL, 5 weeks of games, matches twice a week. We know that's going to be on land at the OGN studios in Los Angeles. Meanwhile, Contenders is going to be online. Right. So what this means as far as teams moving out there, I mean, you look at, they say each phase is 8 weeks, right? So you figure 5 weeks of NPL games. You also, in the middle, they're going to be doing this, the NPL Royale, where it's basically like a mix between Contenders and Pro League that doesn't count for any points, but it's really just kind of a where do we sit as far as overall competition.
It's also a cool ass idea. I want to throw that out there. I think it's kind of fun. But like you said, 5 weeks, 3 weeks split off. So the question is, are teams relocating? Are they flying in on weekends? Yeah. I mean, it's 2 months, but the way that it's broken out, I think, if I remember correctly, it's going to be, or so the implication I'm getting from this is you'll play for a couple weeks. You'll have your sort of 1 week Royale, like you just talked about, in between, play for the next 2 weeks, and then have like 2 weeks off where the Contenders relegation up, down, and possibly a major land goes on somewhere else. And then we all come back again for the next split. So I'm not sure how teams that are not in the top 8 approach this, right? Relocating is a very scary prospect if Contenders is fully online, because if you end up being just a Contenders team for the next 6 months to a year, relocating to LA is expensive and frustrating.
Yeah, especially when if you're not, one of these teams that believes that they are going to constantly stay in that top spot, at least in that top, what is it? So it's the top 10, essentially. If you're kind of like one of these teams that could be on the fence and could go either way, it's a really hard commitment to make, especially if you're an unsigned team, right? Even if you are a signed team, that's a big commitment from an org to make. This is all side stuff that we're going to be figuring out in time. We're just, it's the interesting thing to talk about right now. But what we do know is that each season is going to consist of 3 phases. Each phase 8 weeks. In between the phases, you're going to have relegations, and you're going to have, according to the last calendar, the first calendar that we saw, we're going to have events, like the All-Star event. We're going to have, different kind of events such as that. It's shaping up to be just a boatload of PUBG, a competitive PUBG coming up in 2019.
OGN's clearly investing. PEL is, I guess it's encouraging to me.
I think we've pretty much hit on everything. Like you said, the most prevalent information, the stuff that's coming up the soonest. We have December 7th is the deadline for signing up for those open qualifiers. December 11th through 16th, they're going to be going on Battlefy online, which I'm very, very nervous about that. But we'll got faith in Battlefy. I mean, I feel like they've done this before. They're know what's going on. But yeah, I mean, it's still a little Monka-esque whenever you start getting online qualifiers. But then the 24 teams, you got 8, and then to add to that, 8 direct invite teams, so 32 teams for your NPL preseason closed qualifier, which will be in January. We'll see what happens. You excited, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key is that 16 teams are going to come out of this thing in Contender, which is actually pretty cool. And they're going to have stability to move forward and train, because I think one of the hardest parts of NA is sort of finding a stable chance to keep your team together long enough to get good bro, right? PUBG requires communication and practice. You don't put a team together and win unless you're very lucky or you are just 4 incredibly skilled players. Teams like, now I'm reticent to use Knights right now because they've been struggling lately, but they're an example of a team that I think had to sort of play together for a while to get their feet under them and then emerged as a really great team in Europe. We haven't seen tons of that in North America, in my opinion, yet. I think there's a lot of potential, a lot of great teams out there who will find players like Extreme out of Australia and bring them in and maybe develop them in contenders, right? Because I think Extreme is a good example of a player who wasn't ready for Ghost at the time that he was playing with them and wasn't ready for the other teams he tried out with or worked with, because I think he needs more time training away from the OCE. I think contenders will provide that for some of these non-North American free agents and these North American up-and-coming players.
Well, we shall see. But either way, December is shaping up to be a very exciting month. January, just the same. So, yeah, keep your eyes on the Twitter tweets. Make sure you follow me. Make sure you follow Toffees. Make sure you follow everybody on this cast, because any information that comes out, you can guarantee we'll be among the first to eat it up and regurgitate it for
follow me at Toffees TV. See, I'm doing this because I'm going to do the overlays later and probably put it actually down here.
Yeah, it's going to be underneath you, and you're going to look like a moron.
That's just domestic. No, I need it to be up here. Okay, follow me at Toffees TV.
Well, now we are going to move on to whatever the next topic is. All right, guys, we are in the midst of PUBG Online Showdown Hell Week. Fortunately, all of that's still going on, so we didn't really have the time to get to it today, but we do have some fantastic clips coming out of that tournament, and we're going to show those to you right now.
All right, so you can see it is Cloud9 right now, just with beautiful angles. Tamai going to go for a peek around, but you can see everybody just turns on him. So much damage. Tamai all by his lonesome right now. Nobody else is down. He is in a 1v3. Profi is down on it, but a beautiful long-range grenade to go ahead and finish it off.
No. But look at this. Now roles have kind of switched out as the guys from Ghost are kind of holding this high ground position.
Oh, Moody!
Airtime as bullets are just cascading, getting so many blows. Getting enough out of it. Maluk's still down at the time. 16 kills coming out for Tempo Storm. 4 for Dignitas at the time. Dignitas is playing this so slow, Poro.
That was uncivil.
Not afraid.
Uncivil stopped the flank from Zampa. That was exactly what he needed to be doing.
Everybody's just looking back and forth, cresting back. It's all about those quick peeks. It's Curdy stepping up and getting a little bit more active. It's all Maluk. He's trying to figure out what he's going to do. At least get the flush. Try to go for a couple extra bucks. See if he can get anything off of it. Peeks the wrong hill and goes down. Dignitas.
FlyQuest looked like they want to play this outer wall. Going to force Envy into splitting apart. They're just driving around trying to get into safety, but what's waiting for them is Pat Caps. Is just going absolutely ham. Now getting 1, getting 2, getting 3. Can he get the 4th? Going for the spray as it comes around the corner, and Pat gets it. Manages to get himself a full-on squad kill. Look at this. Now Pat Caps is just kind of watching it. He's just kind of watching. Uh-oh. Seeing if you boy Maluk and your boy Dre drop it down. Gets the spray, gets the 1 onto it, steps back up and gets the 2. Pat Caps coming up big, and he hits the 3. Pat Caps another squad wipe. In one game, he has now wiped 2 different squads, 7 kills, all on Pat Caps right now.
Welcome back, everyone, and now we're going to be talking about the GLL Wingman Series 5, which is a duo tournament, and not only that, but we also have a pretty interesting format to it. Now, the thing is that it goes from Miramar to Erangel to Sanhok. And every time you will have some teams dropping out. So from we start on Miramar with 80 teams, and we do a best of 5. The bottom 8, they drop out, and the rest of the teams move on to the next week, which is Erangel, or it is right now that we're playing it. And it is 64 teams, same thing, best of 5. Top 8 drops out, and for next week, we're going to move over to Sanhok instead, which is going to be 48 teams and best of 5. And from there, I think it's the top 10 from the region that will move on to the finals, which will be played on at the same time as the GLL Season 3 finals. They're also going to be broadcasted from the same venue, actually. So what are your guys' thoughts about competitive duo?
I'll jump in first. So right, so I watched all the Wingman stuff, right? And to be honest, I haven't actually watched many competitive duos before. Seen some broadcaster rail stuff. I didn't watch the first season of Wingman, right? But I thought I'd give it a try this time. Like, I kind of like it. It's very action packed, but it's so difficult to tell what's going on until the final circle. That is my main criticism of the whole thing, right? It's great because it's like popping between different duos, and there's always fights going on, fight, chaotic, kind of, but not in a bad way chaotic, but like multiple teams fighting at once. There's lots of action, but I just find it impossible to follow a team all the way to the end, and then at the final circle, then right, there's 3-4 teams left, and I now know kind of who's going to win, and all that sort of stuff. But up until that point, it feels a bit just like kind of a montage almost of just action sequences on the map until the final circle. I don't know if you guys feel like that, if that's maybe I'm just not really paying enough attention. I don't know.
No, I mean, I think that's a valid criticism. I mean, there is a lot to kind of keep track of when you're talking about, what was it, 64 players, 24 teams?
Yeah, 80 players.
80 teams.
80 players.
Yeah,
80 players.
80,
Oh my God.
80 players in the first one.
So 40 different teams that you got to keep track of. And I mean, yeah, that's definitely going to take some top tier observing, which we do have some top tier observers, some of the most top tier employed there by GLL. So, but at the same time, like, I just think that anything that's going to get people to be more invested in PUBG as an esport, whether that's duos or maybe duos is a gateway drug into squads, who knows? Like, I think that the more stuff out there that people can kind of get behind and get into, the better.
I mean, there isn't that many like duo tournaments of this caliber. We're talking about 25k prize pool for each region, which is EU and NA. So the EU regions is EU 1, and right there is split in the league before the finals. So you have EU as one region, CIS Turkey 1, and for the NA that will be clashing together as well will be NA and SA region. But they also have the OCE Brawlfest that is working with them as well. That one is only 5,000 Australian dollars, which I have no idea how much that is.
As you say, to bring different options in, because we're obviously going to have Pro League coming up. There's not going to be room for the top level squad tournaments outside of Pro League. We already know that. So having a duos, scene that kind of is also present would be great. I mean,
well, and then think about it this way too. Like, if you go and you look at the lobbies of most of these duos tournaments, it's a whole bunch of pros from squad teams that are playing in it right now. So
yeah,
I think right now setting it up and kind of creating that interest while you still have the pros are still available to participate is great. But then it also, once the pros start getting wrapped up in Pro League stuff or contender stuff or whatever they're in, it's going to open that up now for new players to come in and play duos, which will just keep more people involved, which I think is great.
Yeah, I think it's like a little bit less of a what's the word, barrier to entry for a duo tournament, right? You just grab one guy, and a lot of the success in it is like your ability to kind of aim and outfight other people, because a lot of fighting going on, compared to squads where there's a lot of preparation, planning, rotations. You've got to be good at all these different aspects with 4 people in the team.
It's for sure a different game. It's
definitely. Yeah.
We've seen some duos in like smaller things. I think HP by Omen did some at Gamescom, for example, but we haven't really seen it in a bigger part like this. When it's a league itself, we got a big prize pool. Everybody can join it. Like, usually it's a very limited, if you would say like HP by Omen, but for example, it's very limited. You had Curse trials back in the days, which was duos before they moved on to squads. I mean,
oh god. Okay, here comes the flex.
I gotta flex a little bit,
Here comes the flex.
But yeah, just saying, there isn't like, the duo hasn't really evolved into a competitive mode before. But this might
It
be
could.
the push for it.
Yeah, it could.
Exactly.
I mean, I think my thing is it's fun to play. It's fun to get in and involved and enjoy it. I don't know whether it's that fun to watch personally, but maybe that's because I'm too invested in squads. Maybe you just haven't.
Well, it also maybe they haven't nailed down exactly
also
what
true,
they need to do
true.
for the duo viewing experience.
Yeah.
I think if anyone can do it right, GLL can. I mean, they're pretty much like at the top level of kind of observing and production. In my opinion.
Yeah, not only that, but GLL is also really good. Like the format itself that they have for it, where you have the bottom teams dropping out, you move to a smaller map, and same thing, and then move to a smaller map again. I really like that kind of concept as well. And I mean, GLL has always been really good on coming up with new stuff for the PUBG scene. Like, I mean, GLL is setting standards within the PUBG esport, I think, and this might be another standard they might be setting.
This segment brought to you by GLL.
Froz is not affiliated with GLL in any way, by the way.
No, but
I mean, you're right though. I mean, you're definitely.
I agree.
This coming from somebody who hasn't worked for GLL. I mean, I've done one or two events here and there, one off soon. But I mean, I think you're absolutely correct. They really are kind of one of these people.
Yeah.
They really are one of these tournament organizers that introduce a lot. They're not afraid to try new things, and I think that's a huge thing. And it's definitely been beneficial and helpful to the entire PUBG esports scene as a whole going forward from back in the day to now, and to getting to the point that we're at now is GLL's willingness to take those kind of risks. I like that they're doing that now with duos, and I hope they continue to kind of keep that going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're going to live a little bit off topic, but we know there's been a lot of action in the actual Wingman tournament, so hopefully we can check it out with some clips.
Now, who's going to be the strongest wild card duo, though? Oh, they actually make it?
Nope.
Nope. No, they ran themselves over. Oh, no. Wait. They ran themselves over. Wait. How did that happen? Are you kidding me? How did the car run both of them over at the same time?
They jumped out on each side of the car, and because the vehicle hit the little pole, it started rolling.
There's only 2 enemies, so he doesn't need that much ammo for it.
Ooh, spots the head of Patrick. That's going to be... No, what?
Look
Why
at
are
this.
these bullets going?
Kramer.
One guy goes down. That was the last fight, and who wins it?
No!
So close, but yet so far.
I have a Winchester. No one jumped around like yellow and stuff. We can loot around here if you want. Just need to find your car, I guess. Yeah, it's
they flip, man.
Probably... Really?
That one?
I'll try and run them over. Are they beside houses or can I run them over? Oh, Raptor the Raptor. No.
We're down to 19, 17 alive.
Oh, they did not expect that.
Oh, no. How did they not know that?
There was so much going on in the kill feed. Honestly, that's got to be it. There was so...
Oh, no, Pride!
Oh,
no.
the money.
Oh, you do not want to see the replay of that one, Pride.
All right, so now we are here with Poro, Froz, and Crimson to discuss a very hot button issue that was released this last week, which is the PUBG Radar Top 30 rankings. Now, the way they go about deciding these rankings, 17 different panelists from around the world all contribute what they think out of 100 where certain teams fall, basically. So, top team in the world gets 100 points, worst team in the world, 1 point. Obviously, we don't really mess with the worst team in the world. We're more concerned with those top 30. So without any further ado, let's get into it. I know we had the number 1 team overall was Liquid, right? Anybody have any problems with that?
I'm all good with that one. All good with that one.
I figured you would be. I figured y'all would be. I am shook. I think a North American. No, I'm just kidding. No, Liquid. I think Liquid by winning Star Series definitely kind of earned that. And as far as like where they are with FaZe, for me personally, I think it's 1A, 1B. Like those two teams are just going to keep going back and forth for who's top in the world. Just right now for this period of time after winning that Star Series, I think that Liquid goes over it takes that first place and holds onto it pretty securely. I don't know. What do y'all think?
I mean, I totally agree on that, but we also got to consider the fact that Liquid got a new member, FaZe got 2 new members, and it all got to work out that way as well. It's not like the old roster that we have been seeing that have been performing all the time.
Yep.
But it's also a usual thing that roster changes do happen in esports. PUBG, hey, we had so much roster changes lately. But I think it's for the all good.
Yeah. I mean, FaZe second place. I think there's one or two people who might, argue, but otherwise 1 and 2, like I think we're all set on it, right? But C9 Poro number 3, NA.
C9 number 3, and I don't know if Froz is giving me crap about this one, but I'm just saying, who do you put above them? Who do you put above C9 at number 3, considering they just won PGL in the same lobby with a lot of the other teams that you would maybe make an argument for being in that spot?
Well, you putting me on the spot.
I am putting you on the spot.
No, I'm not completely sure myself. Like, I mean, 1 and 2, FaZe Liquid, we're sure about that. Yes. Now, number 3, like I'd say like 3 to 6 around there is pretty even. Like, C9 is one of those teams that should be there for sure. But
you're softballing so hard now.
There is also other teams that actually deserves to be up there, and I think they're not too far from each other right now.
I'll not softball, right? I'm going to say NIP should be above C9. I rated them above C9 at least when I did it. So, but it's so close, right? And it's worth mentioning, if you go and look at the actual ratings on the site and stuff, it is literally like 0.35 or something different between these two teams, putting C9 third. So I think that's right. They're both very close teams. I think I would argue that C9 have done that LAN, but that's kind of it right now. I haven't seen them do anything else at the moment with this new roster. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's just not exactly proven. And NIP, they've similar, I guess, because they've got MBS coming in. But it feels like it's a bit more of a solid lineup, and we've seen them achieve a bit more on the way. So that's a little bit of an argument, but I'm not arguing heavily against C9 being up there.
Yeah, and I guess it all kind of boils down to what weighting you give LANs versus online versus, just the lobbies that they're playing against, right? So, I mean, I think we all kind of agreed C9 coming in first place at that Hong Kong Invitational was nice, but it's not really, you don't weight it as highly as something like PGL or even coming in the top of your lobby at GLL.
Yeah, I mean, and that's perfect for the 5th team on the list, right? Which is Envy, because it's hard to compare Envy, especially against some of the international teams that they haven't really played against, and we haven't really seen the full kind of competition, I guess, from them. So whilst they're clearly a good team, it's really hard to say that they are 5th or 6th or 3rd or whatever. I think that's a tricky one.
And I would just like to point it out that NA fanboy Poro, I had Envy at 8th because yes, they have been doing okay online in the recent performance, but I have to see it at LAN for it to mean anything. So it wasn't me. It wasn't me that ranked Envy 5th.
Well, we can also talk about the fact that Envy is actually previously or just announced that they picked up Interrogate. So when this power ranking was done, Terror was not an official member of Envy before that. So I think that should have affected the ranking more than it actually did, in my opinion, because 5th place with only 3 players, you don't have the full lineup. We don't know what potential you have. We can look into your background and what kind of players you have and results and so on, but it still doesn't reflect the current team and the current status, I'd say.
Yeah, and I would definitely say that the team in 6th place probably deserves to be above Envy, and that's M19. Yeah. M19 actually showing up and performing not only online but at LAN. I mean, I don't think there's any reason that Envy should be above M19 at this point, personally, for me.
Yeah, I mean, M19 are like the ultimate sleeper team because they keep achieving things, they keep doing well, and still people aren't.
Well, they need to get their respect.
Yeah, and I don't know why they haven't got it. I mean, they don't get the 25 kill game bomb everyone talks about, right? And I think that's probably why. But that's not the point of the game, right? You're succeeding in competitions, and they are doing that. And for some reason, people are still rating them lower than I think they deserve. So the first non-NAEU team on the list, OGN, in 7th place. Now, one thing people may not know, because I know, obviously a lot of people don't follow all the Korean scene and that sort of stuff, but OGN came in top of the PKL, like the preseason before the Pro League type of thing. So they are kind of dominating the Korean scene at the moment. I say dominating, but other than that, we don't really get to see them that much, obviously. So it's, again, a tricky one to rate. But
I actually had them 5th. Because they the time that we did get to see them was at Star Series Season 2,
Yeah.
and they came in second. And in arguably probably the toughest lobby that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
So I ranked them a little bit higher. I put them in that top 5 for sure on that. But I mean, 7th I think is a good place for them. You know, maybe not as high as 5th, but they definitely deserve a spot in that top 10. I would think.
No, I totally agree on that. I think they should have been maybe even higher than 7th place, to be honest, considering like the results.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like you said, right? Around 4, 5, 6, 7, it's all kind of pretty close. I think it's really hard to say this team is definitely 7th versus M19 being 6th or whatever, right? But I think they're in a good like ballpark for it, basically. So
then we go to wild card.
Yeah,
another NA team in the top 8. I mean, I don't know what y'all think about wildcard. I like wildcard. I think they perform really good, but my only issue with it is they perform really good online. I want to see it at LAN. At the LANs that they have been to, it's been kind of, you know, not great performances. I mean, not terrible, obviously, but also they're not winning. So I do kind of want to see what they do here at this GLL LAN that's coming up soon. And see if they can kind of figure out their LAN troubles here and maybe put it together here at the end of the year.
Yeah, I really want to see Wildcard being in the top of the Season 3 finals. I talk a lot about Wildcards when I see them in the lobby because I know they got so much potential. And like you can see that. You can see on the gameplay how they're playing together and all those like nutty shots and stuff that is coming out from them. It's like they should be higher up on LAN. But they always struggle for some reason. I'm not totally sure what it is, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a valid criticism to make right now, just based off of what we've seen. So if they can come out here at GLL finals and you know kind of erase all those demons, I think you definitely got to put wildcard up there in that top 5. I would say almost.
Yeah, if they can achieve big on an international LAN, then I think tick the final box for them, right? We will see.
See it.
So finally, like for me, I'm going to say like Vitality and Knights, 9th and 10th. And I'm saying that because for me, they're basically kind of interchangeable. And the reason for that is because they're so up and down in performance, right? One day you'll see Vitality absolutely destroying lobbies, and one day you'll see Knights destroying lobbies, and other days you'll see them coming in, you know, 12th, 16th, that kind of thing. So I think that's a fair place. I think I put them both in the top 10, but I think right at the bottom until they can kind of get that consistency working.
I mean, both the teams have been proving themselves that they are good enough to be one of the top teams. Now, Knights, though, they have a roster they've been playing with for a long time now. They've been showing some results. Lately, they've been dipping out a little bit. Not sure what what's causing it. But Vitality, they've been, as you're saying, up and down a little bit with the new roster. They changed out 2 players, but it's a really strong team on paper, both of the teams. Once they find the consistency, I think they're going to move up to maybe be the top 5, honestly, both of them.
I'm gonna NA fanboy is gonna come in here in defense of Vitality. I had Vitality top 4, and I think that they came in 3rd at Star Series Season 2, which as I've already mentioned, I think is huge. They didn't do that great in GLL Season 3, coming in 21st, but again, I think they kind of had the same thing with Cloud9, where they started off early with some roster issues. Trying to get things squared away, and then by the time they did, it was just kind of too late in the season to really kind of right that ship. Again, it's all about how you rate things, right? But OGA Pit Series Season 2, they got 5th. Curse Trials, they got 1st. And I mean, I think that this is a team that I feel like is trending way more up than down, and I think now that they've got that roster kind of situated, I do think that they are top 5, honestly. But that's just me.
I think they can. I think both those teams could easily be into the top 5 if they can sort whatever kind of issues are causing
Knights. I'm not as high on.
Right? No, okay. But I think Knights, for me, I mean, there was a point where Knights were easily top 3, and they could have won. You know, and I think there's no reason they can't get back to that. It's not like they've had a big roster change that's affected their core player base or something like that. So I think they just need to get back onto the train of whatever it was that was getting them there in the first place, and it's possible. You know,
they just need to right the ship, and once they do, all it's going to take is maybe a couple of good performances in a row, and I think we'll see them right back where they were. The question is, at this point, if you're Knights, are you looking at making a roster change? And I think that's the big question mark. I don't really, I have no.
I don't think.
I hope they don't, because I think that we've seen that roster is capable of being a world beater. Yeah. And I think if they can just figure out what's wrong with that roster, currently they can get back to that spot and get back to that dominant level that they're at, where they're competing with Liquid and FaZe for the top spot in the world. The talent is there. It's just how do you get back to that level?
But talking about this power ranking, I just want to name there's a little bit of problem with this.
There are.
First of all, there's a panel for this. Now the panel consists of how many people was it? 17 people. 5 EU, 5 NA. That's more than half the panel already there. Yeah, and that's going to be a little bit biased, I'd say. If people don't know the other scenes as well, of course, you're going to rate the teams you know better, right? So I think with all the pro leagues coming together now, we're going to see all regional pro leagues and then clashing together in the finals of each phase. I think that's going to be helping a lot with the power rankings as well. And we're going to see more consistent power rankings coming up, with rankings from other regions as well being there up in the top 30 or top 10 in this case that we're talking about.
It's going to get crazy. It's going to get crazy, and there's going to be a lot of debate around it, and I think it's going to be fun, and it's going to be awesome, and I can't wait to do it, and I hope to do it with y'all.
Oh yeah, 2019 is going to be a great year for PUBG.
Yeah, I'm just arguing about regions again. I thought we were past that, guys. Come on.
Never.
So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. At the end of the day, this sort of power ranking is opinions. Obviously, it's always going to be opinions. As Frost says, it's also regional. People have suggested, would it be better if we did this in a way that was region specific? So we tried to rate just the NA teams or just the EU teams against each other. But I think that since we care the most about the international events and the big, the whole scene as a whole, I would prefer to do it internationally rather than a region based. And at the end of the day, as you say, if you say this team's the best in South America, I mean that doesn't mean anything to me if I don't watch any South American games and I don't know anything about the scene. So
it's all opinion. It's all opinion. And so before anybody goes off and throws a Twitter freak out over why such and such team is ranked a little bit lower than they think that they're deserving, just keep that in mind. This is all opinion. It's for fun. At the end of the day, this isn't having any impact on who gets to friggin' pro league. This isn't having any impact on games. This is what we do. This is what you do in a sport, right? Is you rank teams against each other. It's part of the fun of it. So join in the fun, man. Join in the fun.
From the community to the community, more or less.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can go check out who the panelists are, right? And I think looking down the list,
got 3 of them right here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all us 3 did it for a start. I mean, I think you can look down the list of panelists and say, yeah, I mean, these guys, sure, some of them are really opinionated on certain aspects and that sort of thing, but overall, it is a lot of people who know a lot about PUBG. It's not a bunch of people picked out of nowhere that don't watch games or that sort of stuff, right? So yes, they're going to have opinions. That's kind of the point of it, but hopefully there's some reason behind it, and generally it comes out okay.
You're always going to have opinions when it's based on a panel like this. If it's not like power ranking that is made through a point system, like a global point system thingy, that you gather points when you're at the event, like some other games have, for example. So it's always going to be opinion based, and it's always going to look like something like this. And I mean, it's not a bad thing.
It's not. It's fun.
No,
remember fun?
Yeah.
Remember having fun?
It's not about fun. It's about accuracy.
Putting C9 on first place is so fun.
At the end of the day, we discussed this before we started doing this a little bit. I think we're actually all pretty on board with this top 10. Maybe not exactly the order, but we're saying that, it is pretty accurate overall. Right. So that is basically the PUBG Radar Pro Rankings. Let's move on to whatever's coming up next.
Yeah.
All right, hello fans of PUBG Weekly. I'm Mustache Dave, and joined this evening I'm with T-Bone TV from Alliance. You know him, you love him. How's it going, T-Bone?
Not too bad, Dave. How about yourself?
I'm just waking up over here, mate. I'm waking up.
Sounds good.
You guys are preparing for the closed qualifiers.
Of course, yeah.
So what is going into that preparation? What have you been doing to prepare for this?
This is a hard question because it's like we're always preparing no matter what for each event, right? We're going to be having a new roster for this close qualifier. Can't really speak 100% more on that right now. I mean, we've been playing a lot, practicing, going over maps and rotation routes, etc. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but we're trying our best.
All right. So what's the most important skill in your opinion for PUBG? Does it all come down to aim, or does it come down to that methodical kind of thinking that's involved with planning and strategizing?
Obviously, both take a part in the equation, but by far, brain, I feel personally.
So what do you have more of? What do you have more of then? Do you have more of that brain power or that aim power?
I would say I'm slightly edging more on the brain than I am. Yeah, I think so.
All right. What advice would you give aspiring pro players?
I mean, honestly, never give up. Really, like you're gonna get hit down with setbacks multiple times in PUBG. It's just the way it goes. You're gonna lose games. You're gonna come last of games, etc. You just gotta look back at the VOD, see what you could have done differently. Strive to make your team improve as well, because in the end of the day, it's not about you. It's about how all four of you work together, and that's how you're gonna be good at this game. It's nothing to do with solo at all, really.
In your opinion, is it important for pro PUBG players to stream?
Honestly, right now, yes, it is I feel like it's very important. I'm trying to force myself to stream more. Because at the minute, PUBG is still pretty small time. So you really need to, I don't know, build yourself a brand, so to say, like a personal brand. And that was going to benefit you greatly, I would say. So I would say, yeah, it is pretty important.
So what's your daily routine then? What do you do before you sit down for the day and get to PUBG?
Me, most of the time, I mean, I normally just, obviously, wake up, have breakfast. I normally try to go to the gym for at least like about an hour. So I'm not real unhealthy just sitting there. Then I try to come on, maybe watch some streams of people playing, or do some VODs and then stream myself, possibly. Not always, but I try.
All right. What's the best snack? What's the best snack then while playing PUBG?
While playing PUBG, I love Twiglets. Everyone knows I love Twiglets. It's like a UK.
Twiglets?
Yeah.
What is a Twiglet?
It's like a UK. It's like a. I don't know. It's like a crisp, but not a crisp. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't
All
know
right.
how to
I'll have to
explain
look it up. I'll have to look up.
Yeah, you'll have to look that one up.
Who's the funniest player on the team?
Funniest player on the team? Survivor, probably.
Who has the most swagger on the team? The most style? You could say you. I mean, I like that shirt you got on. That jacket's nice.
I wasn't meant to speak exactly on the roster, but I mean, it's out there anyway. So I'm gonna say Mole Man.
All right, Mole Man with the most swagger. All right. Yeah. If you had to share a bed with one of your team members at a LAN, who would it be?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you. I don't really care, honestly. I think they're all good guys.
All right.
Not too bothered.
Anything else you want to say to PUBG Weekly fans out there?
Thank you for watching, everyone, and hope you enjoyed it.
And that's going to do it for this episode of PUBG Weekly. As always, join us again next week where we're going to be bringing you more exciting action from GLL Wingman. We're going to be catching back up with PUBG Online Showdown post Hell Week. We'll be taking a dip into the Korean scene, and OGN OSL European Tournament kicks off, plus any other new information that might come out between now and then about the EU or North American Pro League scenes. Any information at all we get, we're going to be bringing to you. But as always, submit your clips from competitive PUBG to the email listed in the description, or to any of our Twitter accounts, or the PUBG Weekly Twitter account at PUBG_weekly. Thanks again to our special guests, Dids, T-Bone, Mustache Dave, and Toffees. Again, I have been Poro with Crimson and Froz, and the young God Wacko on the production. So thanks once again for joining us. We'll see you next week.